Nearly 90 years old, the elderly man, who should be enjoying his retirement, instead decided to continue working to save money for his son's house and marriage. He chose to ride his bike and pick up passengers. However, after each ride, the elderly man only earned $3, while his fellow workers riding motorcycles made $300 per trip. His peers laughed at him, advising him to raise his prices and get a motorcycle. But the elderly man seemed not to hear their words and stuck to his principles. He refused to raise the price or buy a motorcycle since he simply couldn't afford one. One day, a 300-pound girl approached him with a map and asked him to take her to a mountaintop museum. Looking at the steep hill, the elderly man was taken aback, worried about the challenge. But, for the sake of his son, he gritted his teeth and accepted the order. After a short ride, the elderly man began to struggle, gasping for breath. Meanwhile, his colleagues passed by on their motorcycles, laughing at him. Soon enough, they had already made several trips, earning thousands of dollars. While the elderly man was still struggling halfway up the mountain, carrying the heavy girl, he was exhausted and felt like reaching the top was impossible. To make matters worse, a rock jammed the front wheel of his bike. The elderly man gave it all his strength, but the bike wouldn't move. Fortunately, as the bike bumped, the girl's snacks fell out, and she instinctively got off the bike to pick them up. With her weight reduced, the elderly man was finally able to push through and pass the rock. Eventually, he reached the destination, feeling overjoyed as he thought he was one step closer to securing his son's future. But, despite his efforts, he only received $3. Meanwhile, his colleague had also reached the top and was charging $500 per passenger. After getting paid, he even flaunted it in front of the elderly man. The elderly man wasn't bothered by this. He believed that if the price was too high, customers would stop coming. However, the girl on the bike felt sorry for the elderly man's hard work. She decided to bring her family that evening to help with his business. But, with all that extra weight, the elderly man didn't know whether to feel happy or worried.